What's good, YouTube? Warstorm here, coming at you guys in the video today. Today I'm going to be talking about Mass Effect 3. This is going to be part 1 of my 6-part Mass Effect 3 Revisited series, where I go back and look at the game 10 years later. It's crazy, it's been 10 years since the game came out. But now I'm not going to be breaking down the entire game, just a couple of areas where I think the game needs to be broken down. I'm going to have, this video is mostly going to be covering the positive aspects. Then I'm going to be breaking down the final 4 missions, starting with Priority Thessia, with a final video talking about some of the reaction to the ending after the game came out, as well as covering some of the DLC. But before I get started, I want to make a few things clear. The Mass Effect games are some of my favorite games of all time. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to make these videos, because it's been 10 years, and I love the games to pieces, but obviously Mass Effect 3's writing towards the end of the game left a lot to be desired. For these videos, if you can't tell by the footage on screen, I am using the Legendary Edition for these reviews. It's just easiest way to get the full Mass Effect 3 package. There's a lot of weapons and other things for Mass Effect 3 that you just really can't get nowadays easily. And it's just nice to have the entire Mass Effect package all in one thing outside of the Pinnacle Station in the first game. So I am using the Legendary Edition for these videos. Second thing I wanted to talk about, I do understand that some of you guys out there may not be able to enjoy Mass Effect 3 at all due to the ending, and I think I can completely understand where you're coming from. Borderlands 3 is a game that I tried to get into, but the story is so bad, even though the gameplay is better than Borderlands 2, I couldn't get into it. So I fully understand where you're coming from, but I also think it's important to talk about the positives of the game before I spend 4 videos ripping into some of the plot issues. So anyways, let's go ahead and move on to the improvements BioWare made to Mass Effect 3. What are those improvements? Well, the combat is obviously the main thing. The nice thing about the Mass Effect games between the first, second, and third game is you see a gradual improvement in the combat. And they took feedback from the previous game and improved the combat for each and every game. Now, I think Mass Effect 3 has easily the best combat of any BioWare game I've ever played. I haven't played Jade Empire, Anthem, or Dragon Age 2, but amongst the BioWare games I have played, Mass Effect 3 has easily the best combat, and not even close. Mass Effect 2 combat was definitely an improvement over Mass Effect 1 for obvious reasons. Mass Effect 1 combat is very clunky, but the main issue is that you have to play Mass Effect 2 as a cover shooter. There's not really any aggressive options. Even on the normal difficulty, you have to play it as a cover shooter. So that leads to a lot of the arenas turning into shooting galleries with no option but to take pot shots from cover. Now, Mass Effect 3 fixes this problem in several ways. First, Shepard moves a lot faster in Mass Effect 3, and it's a lot easier to zip between in and out of cover. Also, most of the weapon restrictions that Mass Effect 2 had have been completely removed. You can carry around any weapon, even up to 5 if you'd like, but every weapon has a weight now, which hits your power cooldowns. Now, on some classes, like soldiers, you might, if you want to lug around 5 weapons, you can, but it's going to hit your power cooldown. So depending on your class, you can bring anywhere from 1 to 5 weapons in, but this does tend to lead to a lot of different builds. Only carrying 1 to 2 weapons around, which, and it also kind of leaves SMGs a bit in the dust because a lot of the assault rifles just completely outclass them. But I do think they also did add back weapon mods, which allows you to customize your weapons to fit whatever kind of play style you want for yourself. Let's just take my personal favorite class, Infiltrator, for example, just to talk about some of the options. If you want to lug around a shotgun and use your tactical cloak to sneak up behind people and blast them with your shotgun, it's an option. If you want to take a sniper rifle and snipe them from afar and use your tac cloaks to buff your damage, you can do it. If you want to use your tac cloak to sneak up and punch people in the face with your heavy attack, you got options for that. BioWare also listened to some of the criticism of Mass Effect 2's weapons lack customization, and they knocked it out of the park in terms of weapon selection. You have an insane amount of weapons with this game. It's great, especially with the DLC, and you have tons of options to what you can pick. if you want a fully auto sniper rifle, game has one. You want a shotgun that's got only fires one shot before reloading, but does high damage. Claymore's your thing. You want to grab a high mag damage, high mag assault rifle. You've got your Revenant. The only downside to the way the weapons are you get them is you have to actively be hunting for them during the missions. This sometimes leads to a lot of situations where you're backtracking around a level to make sure you didn't miss upgrades, which kind of sucks. Now, some of the weapons can be bought at the Spectre Requisitions Terminal later in the game if you do miss them, but there are a couple of exceptions like the M358 Talon and the M99 Saber that can be completely missed, and if you don't pick them up, you can't get them again. But that being said, there's tons of different, as far as the mods are concerned, you have a boatload of different options. There are mods that can increase your melee damage. So if you want to go up and punch people in the build I mentioned earlier, it's there. Especially with the DLCs, there's also lightweight attachments you can put on pretty much any gun now, so you can lighten it and make it easier and lower the hit it hits on your cooldowns, which is great. I think it really, I hate to sound like an IGN article, but in terms of the weapon mods and weapon customization, you'll find whatever, it is a little something for everyone. You will find something you like. Of course, it wouldn't be Mass Effect with biotic and tech abilities, and BioWare brought back abilities while making some changes. Some abilities, such as Sabotage, have been completely changed. Now, so when Sabotage is used on an organic target, it will cause their weapon to overheat. So pretty much all abilities that, there were some abilities that were only, like Sabotage, that were only useful against synthetic enemies. Now they work on other things. And all abilities also go up to rank 6 instead of just rank 4 at the topped out in Mass Effect 2, adding even more power for your builds. There's also new combos for various abilities, everything from biotic to tech to fire to cryo explosions. It's really neat to experiment with, and it encourages you to bring squad mates that complement what Shepard does. For example, if I'm on my infiltrator, I might want to have Ashley with me because she has her fire grenade can prime targets for a fire explosion, which works really well against Reapers that have heavy armored enemies. If I was on an Adept, I might want to bring Liara and Javik with me because they have biotic abilities that can prime targets for my combos. It really encourages you to experiment and figure out what works with what, and like I said, it encourages you to bring squad mates that synergize with Shepard's abilities. Now, all the shooting in the world wouldn't really matter if you didn't have something to shoot at. You get 3 primary foes to shoot at in Mass Effect 3, which are Geth, Reapers, and Cerberus. The Geth are primarily in the Quarian and Geth War after the halfway point of the game, so you spend most of the game shooting at Reapers and Cerberus. I'm not a huge fan of Elusive Man and Cerberus becoming stupid Saturday morning cartoon villains, but I think the reason BioWare did it this way was because they didn't want you shooting at Reapers the whole game. They felt like it would be kind of boring, but I still think it's the Elusive Man getting indoctrinated is an insane plot point, but it is what it is. I guess what's interesting is you can see the Reaper and Cerberus' forces grow and introduce new troops throughout the game, with scarier enemies like the Phantoms and Banshees being saved for missions later in the game. Speaking of Phantoms and Banshees, they are a great addition because they force the player out of cover and take advantage of Shepard's increased movement speed. Both enemies have a one-hit melee if they do get close, so Shepard has to actively prioritize them over other enemies. In general, I think most of the enemy design in Mass Effect 3 is pretty fair. I think it's the easiest of the Mass Effect games, even on Insanity. Although I think the Banshees kind of really show some of the problems when you get a lot of them in a very close quarters area. It really shows in the Leviathan portion where when you're on the platforms, and in the Priority Earth, the final mission, where you've just got multiple Banshees preventing you from trying to. It's just a complete clusterfuck, that whole mission. But now, you've heard me talk about the combat for a while, but one of the reasons that frustrates me is people don't really talk about the combat improvements with Mass Effect 3 because of how bad the ending is. But that being said, the ending isn't where the narrative really starts to fall. As I'm going to explain in the next 4 videos, I think the narrative really falls apart when Priority Thessia begins, and then falls from there. I'm going to get into that in the next couple of videos. As far as the rest of the plot, though, I think it's fine. There are some contrivances and issues here and there, but I think a lot of the long-running plot lines in the Mass Effect series, such as the genophage being cured and the Quarian Geth War, are settled in satisfying ways, assuming you get the optimal ending. It's just the narrative takes such a noticeable nosedive after starting with Priority Thessia that I really, really think the game as a whole it hurts. All the improvements Bioware made don't matter if the writing, especially towards the end, is so bad. But anyway, guys, it comes to the end of the video today. I'll be getting into Priority Thessia in the next video. I do hope you guys enjoyed this discussion, and hopefully you stick around for the next video. I do appreciate, and you guys putting up with me gushing over one of my favorite games. But anyways, that comes to the end of the video, guys. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section down below. And as always, I thank you guys for watching. Swarstorm signing out.